These waves will not break!
Hello Rivals fans and welcome back to the Rivals Report, the show that gets you up to speed on Rivals esports news in a nice, bite-sized package. My name is Diatonic and this is the Rivals Report number 25 for the week of November 24th, 2025. On this week's report, it may not be full-on roster mania, but we've got plenty of news for you regarding some transfers over the past couple of weeks. We're also covering the star-studded Oceanic Rivals event that took place over the weekend, featuring major creators, pros, and casters out of the OCE region. And in college competition, the Collegiate Rivals Series wraps up its final week of Swiss action and prepares to head into playoffs. You don't want to miss our highlights and playoff picture. Well, we're officially headed into the Rivals offseason following the conclusion of Grand Finals. While we're still awaiting an announcement about what 2026 will look like for Rivals Esports, there's already been some player and team movement happening behind the scenes. We're expecting more of a true roster mania once those things get announced, but some teams and players decided not to wait and get the transfer season underway. So here's a quick breakdown of nearly every move that's been made since Grand Finals. First, let's start with the biggest news. Following the conclusion of Grand Finals, Sentinels announced that they'd be releasing their iconic roster and pausing operations in Rivals. They did say they'd be interested in returning once they felt incentivized enough to do so, but for now, they're bowing out of competition. And unfortunately, they're not the only ones either. Just a week or so ago, 100 Thieves also announced they'd be letting their roster enter the free agent pool as well. They were a bit more clear-cut in their future intentions with Rivals. They plan to stay in the ecosystem and continue working with NetEase to potentially help guide the future direction of the game's competitive circuit. But to be clear, neither of these announcements are these orgs fully choosing to step away from the game forever. They both clarified that they'd like to return when team incentives improve, and the Thieves especially have said they're continuing to work within the game. Still though, it's sad to see these iconic rosters part ways, but it'll absolutely spice up the free agent pool going into next season. In other Tier 1 org departure news, Grand Finals third place finishers FlyQuest recently announced the contract expirations of both head coach Legit and Duelist Vision. They came on part of the way through the season and played a big part in the team's progression heading into finals. Not much detail was provided, nor was it explained whether or not the org tried to re-sign these two, but fans seem to be particularly upset about the departures. Sticking with Grand Finals participants, there's a lot of movement surrounding NA Team Dark Zero as well. They picked up Rymazing and Karova after those two departed Sentinels a while back, but it seems like they have a few players potentially moving on as well. Madara, Impunity, and Smash have all posted looking for team announcements on X. We haven't heard any official announcements regarding DZ parting ways with the roster, so for now we can just assume these players are looking for their next opportunities. Another big Grand Finals player looking for a team is Melio. This broke on Sunday afternoon as of the uploading of this video, and the duelist formerly of Citadel Gaming, and even further back formerly of Rad, is in search of a new team. It was a big deal when Melio left his former Rad, now Navi teammates behind after mid-season finals, but it seems as though he only reached an agreement with CTG through the end of this Ignite season. Still sticking with Ignite teams, we've got a couple more quick hits for you. Rejects Dobie has also departed from the team. It seems that Dobie is after a coaching position with another team, according to the tweet they made after departing. Lots of movement over on Shikigami as well, as Timber, Cute Puppies, and Stace are all chasing after their next opportunities as well. Forky Dog and Unown are leaving behind Rad Esports, Xantho is moving on from Fire Strays, and Maluki and Ballas are no longer with Alkitsia. Ballas has already found a new opportunity with the relatively new team Final Dance, the winners of the Fnatic assembled LAN in London. They'll be replacing Leolaz as its duelist, who recently parted ways with Final Dance. And to round out just a few more roster updates, out of OCE, Rocco is departing Kanga Esports, who recently competed with him in Stage 2 of Ignite. Z-Cotton will be saying goodbye to Xavier Hope just after their runner-up finish in the Season 4 MRC. Aurora has departed Gosu Academy also after the MRC, but has been seen playing alongside new team Genesis in Battle of the Orgs as of late. And finally, Flawlex is no longer with Imperfect Gaming, who were the runners-up in the Battle for the Stones Circuit Finals in Puerto Rico. And that, of course, is just the tip of the iceberg, seeing as we're only a couple of weeks into the off-season. We should be expecting Ignite 2026 news about any time now, and I imagine once those announcements are made, we'll see new teams entering the fray and bigger moves from more places. We'll of course bring you the 2026 news when it's available, and we'll be working to keep you apprised of all the roster moves during the off-season. Big news out of the Oceania region this past weekend, as the minds over at Hammer & Shield Productions put on their Oceanic Rivals showmatch event. This event featured two separate show matches, one pitting teams of content creators against one another, and the other serving as a showcase of the pro player talent in the region. We not only witnessed both of these matches go down, but we were able to sit down with one of the faces of the event. OC Ignite commentator and the head chef over at HSP, Avatar Liger.
Not many people know much about our region. We've sent our best players off, but the creator scene, not too well known. Got a couple standouts, shout out Zaza and Potato. But ultimately, this event, I want to showcase some who are on the rise, some who I believe will be those big dogs in year 2.
As previously mentioned, Oceanic Rivals consisted of 2 separate show matches, and the action was casted by Liger and Vaudable as well. Many of these pro players, of course, have Ignite or high-ranked MRC experience among them, which beg the question, can a creator show match really keep up with one featuring the pros? As Liger told me, you might be a bit surprised by how skilled some of these content creators really are.
I think when we're talking about the concept of pro-ams in the future, that am factor is actually the content creators. They're not really AMs though, they're not amateurs. They're all high rank. Is the creator match gonna be more skilled than the pro match? The pro match, they are higher ranked slightly. They have Ignite and MRC experience. We're talking top 4 teams in Ignite OCE, and even some winners of MRC Pacific as well are playing.
While of course a great deal of emphasis was placed on this event, it seems that this is only the beginning of an ongoing community tournament effort within the OCE region.
This tournament, I just have to say big shout out to the signups. There was such a gap. I felt so terrible to put people in the lower ranks against these behemoths. So in my mind, I now know we're going to do a rank for the lower yield. We're going to do another future event for them.
This event wasn't just about throwing lower ranked players to the wolves either. There was serious thought put towards making teams balanced and also including Gambit players on every team as they look to showcase what the game's newest hero is capable of. All of these things, and the production as a whole, take a massive amount of effort to put together. And while Liger has indeed been a driving force behind making all this happen, we can't overlook the efforts of the staff at HSP and the numerous other production staff and Rivals experts they tapped to make this event happen. It truly does take a village to pull off something like this, and the entire production staff should be commended for putting on such an entertaining product. Of course, Oceanic Rivals was all about celebrating the first year of Marvel Rivals and about showcasing what the OCE region has to offer. But another big aim, as Liger told me, was to help uplift both the creators and pros in their endeavors.
We're hoping that everybody goes in like, wow, I got my full. I'm happy there's people here playing creators. They're really good. I want to follow these people. I'm going to go to their streams. They stream regularly 5-6 times a week. I want to go to the pros. They're also streaming as well. Maybe some of them are content creators as well. And honestly, hey, it improves your brand as a pro, increases your bargaining power. Maybe you get signed bigger checks, you know?
And of course, we have to talk about the matches. Both show matches were slated to be best of 5s, so plenty of time for every player to show their stuff. For the creator show match, there were 2 absolutely stacked squads of creators featuring Marvel Rivals partners, streamers, YouTubers, and more.
There's also somebody who's been a big spokesperson in Ignite watch parties in Pirita, and we've actually invited him to play. We've put a fantastic main with him, Mr. Fantastic. That's Cody. We've also got Kaplunk, I believe, #1 Jeff in content in the world. But for the second team, some big standouts as well. We've got, I believe, the #1 Widow in the world, but technically #2, Zaza Stack. She'll be pro before you all know it. Watch out in Ignite. Other than that, of course, we've got, I believe, people who stand out. We've got a Hulk mirror match as well in the creator scene between Boonsky and Daryl Banner. That's going to be a really cool one. Rated RKO has banger Marvel Rivals content. I want to put him in an event for a while.
So it was Team Hearts versus Team Spades in that creator show match, opening things up on Burn T'Challa for some domination action. But Team Hearts would find themselves in the driver's seat on that opening map, but it was an uphill battle. Team Spades would keep them on their toes, starting with a 99-99 overtime showdown on the very first point. Hearts managed to take that one and pull away on the second, so they'd handily take map #1. Spider Islands was up next, and we were in for some serious tug-of-war action on this one. Hearts opened up as the attackers, and they'd clear it with about 15 seconds remaining. But Spades battled back, tearing through the Hearts defense and clearing the map as well with just 6 seconds left. Spades only managed about 50 meters of progress in the extra round, and though it'd be finished under overtime, Team Hearts would win their second map here. And it all came down to Heart of Heaven for one last showdown. Spades encountered a couple of issues on this map.
He knows what it is.
Guilty. Guilty.
That is the face of an assassin who went behind enemy lines and unplugged their PC.
But it was yet another incredibly close map. Hearts were on offense first, and they again managed to finish out the map, though Spades would make them work for it. Switching sides for one last attack from Team Spades, and they certainly put up a valiant effort, but Team Hearts had built up an insurmountable momentum that Spades just couldn't find an answer for. Team Hearts win the Creators of Passion show match 3-0. And now we turn our attention to the Champions of Power show match, the exhibition featuring some of the top pros fighting out of the OCE region.
On one side, we've got Dwep, as we know, the vanguard of Chopper Mag. We've got Tini Valkyrie, Angela Player. Joining them is going to be Zycric, Hypnotic, Sector, and Slippery. And the second team, we've got LeBronald of OCE. That's right, Donald, the Magneto GOAT, is leading the team. We've got Wav as well joining them, who's from Vulcan Red. Then, you know, the Melee Demon, the Black Panther in China. We're talking about, yes, of course, FMCL, backed up by Snipsy, big player from the Vicious, as well as Bubblecar from Xavier Hope. And of course, to finish it off, from my honest hometown, straight up, my boy, Skittles, Westside from Sydney, represent.
Team Clubs and Team Diamonds loaded into the mutant utopia of Krakoa for their first showdown, and Clubs came out the gate swinging. They'd grab first cap on point 1 and hold it to the very end. They'd start off the same on point 2, rushing Team Diamonds before the point had even unlocked. Clubs would get to 99% captured before Diamonds would finally make the flip, but it was short-lived, and Clubs would take map number 1. Midtown was up next, where Clubs would put up a brick wall on defense. They held Diamonds to just short of checkpoint 1, then quickly captured the mean streets of New York after switching sides. With Team Clubs now just a single map away from a full sweep, we headed for Symbiotic Surface next. Diamonds were once again the attackers to lead off, but Clubs had no intentions of slowing down. Diamonds fought hard, but weren't able to unlock the payload, leaving the door wide open for Team Clubs to finish things off. And after just about 2 minutes, the Clubs snagged victory in the Champions of Power show match 3-0. 2 sweeps, but so many incredible maps and moments between these 2 show matches. This is yet another case where you really have to look beyond the overall map score and at the match as a whole. Oceanic Rivals was subtitled as a love letter to Year 1, and I think that subtitle applies both to the OCE region, but also to Rivals as a whole. This was a showcase of how far this game has come thus far, and where we're headed in the future. And according to Liger, there are big plans around the corner for HSP, for OCE, and for Rivals.
We can't spoil the end game now. You know, we got to build up to it. This is only phase 1. Right, still got a couple more phases before we get to some Thanos level entertainment. All right. But for now, you can guarantee Year 1 is definitely taken into the fact that there will be more. There will be Year 2. But hey, in between, you know, every year, there's 4 seasons. So maybe something to be coming. All I'll say is keep an eye on March at a certain city of Melbourne for an in-person Marvel Rivals event, potentially.
For all things OCE Rivals, be sure to tune in to the Marvel Rivals OCE Discord server, as well as HSP's social media channels for what comes next. Links, as always, are in the description. And in the Collegiate Rivals series, time has run out for the 28 American and Canadian university teams to vie their way into the CRS Fall playoffs. Week 8 of Swiss is all wrapped up, and we've got some highlights for the final regular season broadcast for you, as well as a look ahead towards what's in store for the playoffs. The final broadcast match of the regular season took place between the 15th seed Rutgers and the 16th seed CPP Galactic, meaning this was very much a do-or-die match for both teams. Win and qualify into the playoffs. Lose and your season ends. And that's not even including Gambit being available for the first time this week, shaking things up even further. I joined Soren and Rezi in the booth to call the action from this last regular season match. The final broadcast series kicked off on Burnin T'Challa, and Rutgers came out of the gate ready for a fight. They pushed CPV Galactic all the way to spawn on the first point, and it was the Rutgers show from there on out. There were some signs of life on point 2 for CPP, with Apollo scoring a wild Hexa KO on Winter Soldier, but even that wasn't enough to turn the tide, and Rutgers would snag map 1. We headed for Araco next, and CPP looked to turn things around as they took offense first. They managed to battle their way to 2 checkpoints, not able to clear the map, but giving themselves some breathing room for the second half. But it wouldn't be so simple to stop the Rutgers train, as the Scarlet Knights would find a breakthrough and finish off CPP to make it a 2-0 series, locking them into the playoffs. And with that, the regular season of the fall split draws to a close. Of the 26 teams entered into this split, 16 of them will be moving on, and the season concludes for the other 10. Now, some of the top university rivals teams from across America and Canada will enter the fray to try and be crowned fall champions. They'll also be fighting to earn a piece of the tournament's $2,500 prize pool. Of the teams entering into the next stage of the CRS, there are certainly a few to keep your eyes out for. Indiana Tech concludes the Swiss stage as the number 1 seed, a team that made themselves seem almost entirely untouchable throughout Swiss. This squad has threats across the board, but led by the fearless P. Dougie, they're going to be tough to overcome. Same goes for the number 2 seed, the University of Toronto Avengers, ending the Swiss stage 6-2. This team has some true competitive experience in the form of Angad, who's placed top 16 in the MRC and competed in Ignite. CPP Infinite were the runners-up in the CRS Summer Showdown and stamped their ticket to playoffs a while back. There are other threats among those, such as Georgia Tech Gold, Nebraska, Rutgers, Iowa State, and plenty of others featured on past Rivals reports. And that's not to overlook those other teams either. But we'll know who comes out on top soon enough. Playoffs are set to start this coming weekend and will be played out over the course of 2 days. For more information about playoff dates, be sure to keep an eye on the CRS's Twitter @College Rivals. And don't forget to tune into the action live on twitch.tv/Collegiate Marble Rivals. It's been a wild 8 weeks of competition thus far, and it's slated to get even more heated as all teams have their eyes on the prize. And finally this week, it's been nearly a year since the full release of Marble Rivals, and the community is coming together to get into the spirit. NetEase recently partnered with event hosting company Giant Size Productions to put on a Marble Rivals first year anniversary celebration event held in Burbank, California. The event was attended by a number of prolific figures in the Rivals community, including a handful of the game's voice actors and even the actors behind Gambit and Rogue. Executive producer Danny Koo was also in attendance, and it was all hosted by Marble Rivals Ignite caster and host Cozy. An absolutely star-studded event to say the least, especially if you're collecting Rivals voice actor signatures. There were meet and greet sessions for fans to meet the voices behind their favorite heroes, cosplay was more than encouraged at the event, and there were plenty of prizes, panels, and more to keep fans entertained throughout the entire event. There were also panels where some of the devs spoke about the development of Rivals, so some opportunities to get a behind-the-scenes look at the game. And if you missed out, there's plenty more one-year festivities where that came from. Rivals is calling for all fans to submit anniversary message videos to be played in-game in the Times Square Social Hub, and we're expecting some goodies to come out of the anniversary costume event later this week. It's hard to believe it's already been a year since Rivals launched, but so exciting to see how far it's come in that year and to see where it's headed next. We've been covering Rivals esports news every single week for the past 25 weeks and have no plans of slowing down as Rivals continues into the future. Well, that's all for this week's Rivals Report. Be sure to subscribe to stay up to date on the latest in Marble Rivals esports. And be sure to follow me on other platforms including Twitch, X, and TikTok. And if you're looking to get your feet wet in some competitive Rivals action, I'll be hosting and casting the first ever High Tide Marble Rivals Cup alongside my friends at High Tide Gaming. It features a $100 prize pool and is open to players of all skill levels, so squad up and come get in on the action. I've been Diatonic, you've been amazing, and I'll see you in-game.